go away. And I just kind of raised my hand. Let me tell you, I said, I've been there. I've been to Creta, and watched all their mouths dropped, and they said, well, how'd you get in there? I said, I just opened the door and just kind of walked in. And of course they knew I was coming. But I said, listen, I said, it is $1 million. I said, but you know, if we pay it in full, I said, they're going to knock 30% off. We're going to be able to get rid of this debt and then start building this family fitness center at the Y so wanted to do. So there were some other good guys on this board, and they said, you know, we could do this through the UEZ. So the UEZ very graciously accepted the offer to save $300,000 to the Y. Jeff had saw the enthusiasm, I guess, when I had that done. And as Senator Van Drew did mention, I do have a business in Vineland. I have a trucking company. It's a company my dad started in 1969. He was a guy who took a chance with 6 kids at home and had an opportunity. He took that opportunity. We employ close to 100 people. So I know what it's all about to make sure that we open those doors every day so we have 100 families that depend on our family to keep it going. So around April 2007, Jeff called me one day, kind of on the fly, and said, hey, what are you doing? Meet me for dinner. You know, and that's just kind of how Jeff does. And you just go if you can. So we sat down and we ate. He goes, look, I think I want to run for the Senate seat, and I want you to run for my seat. And I just go, what? I said, I never ran for anything in my life. But you know what? That's actually not true. I gotta tell you this story because this is a true story. I grew up in Gloucester County, and back in the very, very early 80s, I've been down in Cumberland since 85, but in the early 80s, I lived in a condominium complex. And as a bet, I ran for the condominium association. Did it on a bet with my brother. He said, hey, you never win, you know, there's 400 people here, you know, they've been on that board a long time. So I did like this real old-fashioned thing, because my dad's former freeholder and a former mayor of the town I grew up in, so politics kind of been in my life for a long time. And I just kind of went door to door in this whole condominium complex and told them I was running, and I ended up winning. I got the most votes, and you end up being the chairman when you get the most votes. So here I am at like 23 years old now on this board of the condominium complex. So it was a year term, and they only did them a year, which I thought was a great idea. And I saw a lady who was struggling with some groceries one day, and she, I just kind of went over and I said, can I help you with them? And she goes, oh yeah, that'd be great. So I helped her with the groceries and carried them inside for her. And she says, you know, that's really, really nice of you to do that. And I said, well, you know, I said, I'm thinking if I get enough votes, I'm going to maybe be chairman of this condominium association someday. And she goes, well, I hope you do, because the guy that's the chairman now is absolutely no good. So I absolutely walked out, did not even tell her until the next voting time when she saw me, and her face absolutely dropped. So I did run for an office once, and I did win. But in April 2007, when Jeff asked me, I thought about it for about 15 seconds, and I said absolutely yes. If I have a way, I mean, with my Y, with the YMCA and my church, I mean, I help people there. I'm a chairman of finance of my church at home, and I said, wow, I said, what a great way to just like get a little influence, and I can help some more people. And I said, what a great way to do it. What a great mentor to have with Jeff. I said, I wouldn't have anybody else, and I'm proud to say that. I mean, people could say I shirt-tailed my way in. They can cut, you know, I call it association, because I was associated with Jeff is how I got in. Whatever the terms are out there, that's how I got in. But you know what, I wouldn't have any other mentor than that. So we had a huge issue, though. I told Jeff, I said, well, you know, people in Cumberland know me, and the piece of Atlantic that we cover. I said, I do know some folks down here in Cape May. I said, but basically, they have no idea who I am. He goes, oh, don't worry about it. We're going to really work hard, and I'm going to show you how to do this. And he did. We did the grocery stores. We did door-to-door. We did commercials. We did this. And the one thing I made sure I did during that is I was going to promise. But the only promise I was going to do is just to work hard, because I went in this not knowing anything. And it's groups like the AARP and people like Minnie that keep me going and keep me informed on what I should be fighting for. Because I absolutely get more out of things like this today than you'll ever get out of me. So we worked our tails off. I mean, all summer long, and then after Labor Day, after the tourists left, then we came back down here and we worked our tails off, met a ton of people, great people, and of course a lot of people with issues, and that's when you hear your ears to the street at this point. Now you're really hearing what's going on. I know what I go through in my own life, what my employees go through, because my ear is to them, but to hear it on a much, much broader area was very important to me to do. So come November, you know, that election day, bam, we win. It was unbelievable. It was like, you know, the metabolism speeds up and you just go crazy. Then after election day, you have a lull until about January 8th when you're sworn in. That's when it gets real. When you put your hand on that Bible and you swear that you're going to do what you promised the people you were going to do, that's when it got real. Because you just swore and you looked up and you said, yep, I'm going to absolutely do the best job I absolutely can. The only promise I made was to work hard, and I was going to continue with that promise. Now you can imagine what happens then. I mean, your first day in Trenton, you literally are attacked. Everybody wants to be your friend. Between, the lobbyists and all their interests. I mean, I'm talking to, people just about, whether it's the horseshoe crabs and red-knot birds and this, and it was just amazing, this information. So to get that information and to actually try and absorb it, it was just overwhelming. So I said, all right, I need to just prioritize some of these things. I did prioritize them. I had to prioritize them by education, which is our young folks, and I had to do it by the seniors and our handicap. And that's exactly how I had to do it. I have a brother that's paralyzed, my father who didn't walk the last 5 years of his life, who just passed 8 months ago, and I have a mother that is a senior citizen, very early stages of dementia. So I am living it. I get it. I know what's happening. And you know what? And Senator was right. Governor Corzine did step up to the plate. We don't agree with him on a host of issues. We agree with him on this one. We agree with him on the education because, they always say the children are our future. Actually, the children are our now, and that's what we need to invest now in. And that is important. But there's many, many other hosts. And just because he's a Democratic governor doesn't mean we have to always agree on it. Jeff and I don't agree on a number of things. I mean, I'll just give you a quick example. Some of you might know exactly what it is. There was a huge issue that came up within 57 days that I had to vote for that was not comfortable for business, and that's the only thing that I know about is the business, and was paid family leave. I couldn't do it. I don't know if a lot of you folks know what that is, but there's now a deduction out of the people's checks and goes into a fund. And the hard part about it was it was my colleague's signature legislation, Assembly Albano, but we worked it out, we talked it out. They knew my position. Jeff and Nelson knew my position. I absolutely had to vote no. I was the only Democrat who voted no for that bill. I couldn't morally do it to mandate businesses to put in a paid family leave. I have a family leave in my manual for my employees, had it in there for 20 years. We are sympathetic to people. If their family members are sick, we want to give them the time off. We want them to be able to do things. That was the things that happened. We are a team. But you know what? We don't have to always agree on things, and they respected me for that, and I respected them for listening to my position. Jeff is a big mentor, but he also encouraged me to use my mind at all times. Just a couple issues that we have going forward, and our office is working daily. We have a great staff there. I was very fortunate and able to come into a staff that was already in motion. We share 3 offices in Cape May Courthouse here, in Milam, Millville. And the staff was already in place, and they were doing so many great things, but now they had an extra person to obviously take on too, so they had another whole person with another whole list of issues too that I had to get done. But our office is every day helping people with whether it's their if it's a Social Security problem, if it's their Medicaid, Medicare, it's just a host of things. It's with we have the energy assistance things that we're helping people with, the property tax freezes, and this information is just all, very, very available, but they're very, very confusing as well, because I always have to make sure that my mom is taking full advantage of this, and this is how I learned, of course, with the health insurance companies. And then also another one that was very important to us was the Pharmacy Quality Act. The Pharmacy Quality Act, it basically is making these pharmacists just very, very aware about errors. It's a bill, it's probably 3-4 pages long, just gives them a whole list. It creates a task force that's going to lay guidelines, because we want the pharmacies to make sure that they're not going to make errors on anyone's medicine, because that could be absolutely disastrous for us. And of course, as the senator mentioned, was the assisted living crisis that happened, absolutely wrong. And Minnie did say it exactly right. As long as my mother can stay in her house, she is going to be well. She still drives, she does this, she does that, but I will tell you, every once in a while she'll call me. She's not real sure where she is. If she's kind of ventured down the Hamilton Mall, she'll just kind of say, I'm not sure what I did, but and it's okay because I can talk her through it. I know a lot of landmarks and she can give them to me, but that is